All right, we are going to learn mapping in 3D. So mapping is the process of taking an image and wrapping it around the object that we have. So I'm just going to show some of the basics, how to bring an image in and wrap it around this cube. And then I'll show you some other ways to do it and reasons for it. We use this a lot. It's pretty complicated, but after doing it a few times, you get the hang of it. And we do it all the time, so it's time to learn. So I'm just going to take a minute and set up my document here, or my 3D stuff, give it some good lighting. I like to do that first. So I'm going to raise this cube up just over the grid. I'm going to do a Shift A and grab a plane and press S to scale it up pretty big, and I like to pull that up just above the grid. Some might like the grid for reference, but it just kind of bothers me, so I just pull the plane right above it. Then I zoom out, I right click on the light, click the light options over here. If you don't see them, you can expand this menu, or you can hover over these options and scroll wheel, and you can find that. So the light tab, and we're in Blender Render, so I'm going to switch that to cycles. We always use cycles, and then anytime you see the use nodes, you can click that if you're following along, of course. So before I change the lighting, I like to go to a live render, Shift Z, just so I can see what the lighting looks like as soon as I change it. Then I click right in the middle of this strength box, and I usually just go to 1500 right away. That's pretty good. And I like to change the size of the light to 2-ish to soften that shadow. Okay, so now the lighting's great. I'm going to go out of my live render, Shift Z. I'm going to select this cube, and we are going to add a material to this cube. Looks like it's already got one for some reason, but you can click New right here, or it might already be showing up. You might see the Use Nodes button. You can click that Use Nodes, and then you'll see this. So instead of adding a color, which we've done in the past right here, this color bar, if I Shift Z, render it real quick, I can see that color, or I can change this to material and I can see that color right away. I kind of like solid view for a while. So we've only learned a color so far, but now we are going to grab an image from online and we are going to wrap it around this cube, map it as we call it. So let me open up a browser window, bring it over. Oops. And I'm going to just search for an image. Snowy mountain is what I'm going to search for, since it's fall and I'm getting excited for the snow. So I'm going to click images, and I want a big image, so I'm going to click on tools right here and size, and I'm going to say I only want large images. And that's because if I get a small image and bring it into Blender and map it on my cube, it's going to be really pixelated. So it's good to specify that you want large images. This one's pretty cool. I'm going to click on it once, and if I hover over it, I can see how big it is. That one's huge. I'm actually going to get one a little bit smaller. Anything over 1,000 is decent. Okay, this one's pretty big too, but that's all right. I'm going to right click on it, and once it loads, actually I got to make sure it loads. That's not what I want. So sometimes it looks a little bit blurry and then it gets nice and crisp. Then it's loaded. Then if you right click on it, save image as, and then I'm just going to add it, oh I already had one, to my documents, my 3D graphics, and you might have an image, probably do have an image assets folder, and you can put it in there. I'm going to save over this one. Gone. Yes. Okay, so save it to your probably image assets folder, and then it downloads, and then you can go back to Blender. So instead of this color right here on this bar, there's this dot on the right side, and that gives us more options. And I'm going to choose the image texture. So look, it's waiting for an image, for me to open an image or find it in Blender, this drop down, there's nothing there. So I'm going to open the image. Here's a preview, this bright purple, and if I render it, Shift Z, it's bright pink, I guess, pink. That means that it's waiting for an image, looking for an image, but it doesn't have one. So I'm going to click open and find my snowy mountain image. There it is. If I click this button right here, it's super useful. It shows me the pictures. If I have lots of pictures, it's easy to find them that way, that button right there. So I'm going to double click it, and it brings it in, and it's now going to be assigned to that cube. But if I render it, it's just picked one of those colors and added that color. There's one more thing we have to do. So this is adding the image onto the material that is assigned to this, but now we need to what we call unwrap this cube, because the image is flat, and I can even click on this. Oh, well, never mind. We're going to put it on the cube. This preview shows it on a sphere, whatever. So we're going to unwrap this cube. The image is flat, and the cube is not flat, and so we need to get this cube flat. So how do we do that? Let's go to edit mode. I'm going to press the tab key, go into edit mode, and I'm going to get my edge select right here. And now I can select edges, and what I'm going to do is kind of cut this. If you can imagine this as like a cardboard box, and you take a box cutter and you cut some edges, and it will open up that box. And so if I hold down shift and select 3 edges on this top face up here, if you can imagine cutting those 3 edges, you could open that up, and it pivots on this because that stays together. I'm not cutting that, just these 3 edges. Okay, so that opens one side, but I need to lay this whole thing flat. So I'm actually going to hold down shift and select the other vertical edges, all the vertical edges. I can take my hand off of shift, I can pan around with the middle mouse key, and then hold down shift again and select this one. If you accidentally lose your selection, just do a Control Z and you can get it back. So I'm going to select all 4 vertical edges and the 3 on the top. That's my favorite way to select it, and you'll see how it, well, if you can imagine cutting these sides, that would fall down, all 3 of these. It would just fall to the ground, this one fall to the ground, this one fall to the ground, and this one is a little different. It would take, this top part would fall over with this one. It's connected to this one and the bottom. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. We've got the selection. I'm going to come over here to the Shading and UVs tab and click this button right here, Mark Seam. So every edge that I have selected, it's going to mark it. If I press A to deselect, it still has those marked in red. And then I press A again to select all of it. And then I can press U to unwrap it. I need to unwrap, and that way it will unwrap it flat. Let's go check it out. So there's these little diagonal markings in the corner of all these windows. You got to be careful with these. But if you click and drag straight to the left on this one, it opens up a new window. If you get too many accidentally, oops, you can click on those again and drag slightly to the right until it gives that little faded arrow and let go, and it goes over the top, or it deletes that window, I guess. So click and drag one to the left. I've got this new window, and we're going to change the viewport. We don't need two 3D views. We want to click that and get the UV image editor. So click on that, and I already unwrapped it, and there it is right there. So I'm not sure why it's not square. If it's not square, like mine is not, I know why now, because I had this image. Well, let's figure that out later. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, in this UV image editor window, is that what it's called? Yep, UV image editor window. I'm going to click this little drop down right here, and there's my picture right there, sitting there. Since I already brought it into Blender, it's there. So I'm going to click on it right there. Whoop, it's really zoomed in. I can zoom out. There's my squares. Okay, that's good. Now this is going to be on the cube like that. So what I have here is this square right here, which is on the bottom, I believe. If I hide my plane right here, then I can pan around and I can see that on the bottom. Yep, that's what's on the bottom. And then all these edges on the bottom are connected to the sides. And so it just continues on to the side, continues from the bottom to the side on all of those. And then all those edges have one cut edge right here, well, 3 cut edges, except this one. So it unwrapped it flat, and then it's just wrapping it back up. And that's what I'm seeing over here onto the cube. So I've unwrapped it, I've cut it, marked the seams, unwrapped it, and now it's on my image. Now this is like an object over here. It's selected. I can press A to deselect, but if it's selected, I can rotate, press R. I can even type 90 and enter. Press G to grab it and move it, and I can scale it, S. So I can fill up as much of that picture as possible. And you can see it moving around over here in the live render. And so now it is wrapped around that cube, and it's kind of upside down, kind of sideways, but I'm not worried about that right now. So there it is. Each side, each face has a different section of the image. So it's wrapped all the way around that cube. If I select all of it, I can see where everything is. So that's the most basic part of mapping, wrapping an image around an object, which is in this case a cube.